Okay, folks. Uh, Last week, we read about trumpets uh, uh, 5 and 6, uh, and now we're back at an interlude. But this interlude is going to be all of Revelation 10 and Revelation 11 through verse 14. Chapter 10, verse 1. And I saw another mighty angel. I'll put my turn this on here so you guys can hear me. And I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud with a rainbow over his head. His face was like the sun, and his legs like pillars of fire. He had a little scroll open in his hand, and setting his right foot on the sea and the left foot on the land, he gave a great shout and like a lion roaring, and he shouted, and 7 thunders sounded. And when the 7 thunders sounded, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Seal up what the 7 thunders have said, and do not write it down." And then the angel whom I saw standing on the sea and land raised his voice and hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and what is in it, and the earth and what is in it, and the sea and what it is in it. There will be no more delay. But in the days when the 7th angel is to blow his trumpet, the mystery of God will be fulfilled, as he announced to his servants, the prophets. And then the voice that I heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, "Go, take the scroll that is open in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land." So I went to the angel and told him to give me the little scroll. And he said to me, "Take it and eat it. It will be bitter to your stomach, but sweet as honey in your mouth." So I took the little scroll from the hand of the angel and ate it, and it was sweet as honey in my mouth but when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. Then they said to me, "You must prophesy again about many peoples and nations and languages and kings." Then I was given a measuring rod like a staff and was told, "Come and measure the temple of God and the altar and those who worship there. But do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out, for it is given over to the nations, and they will trample over the holy city for 42 months. And I will grant my 2 witnesses authority to prophesy for 1,260 days, wearing sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees, and these are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth. And if anyone wants to harm them, fire pours from their mouth and consumes their foes. Anyone who wants to harm them must be killed in this manner. They have authority to shut the sky so that no rain may fall during the days of their prophesying, and they have the authority over the waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they desire. When they have finished their testimony, the beast that comes up from the bottomless pit will make war on them and conquer them and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city that is prophetically called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. For 3.5 days, members of the peoples and tribes and languages and nations will gaze on their dead bodies and refuse to let them be placed in a tomb. And the inhabitants of the earth will gloat over them and celebrate and exchange presents, because these 2 prophets had been a torment to the inhabitants of the earth. But after 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered them, and they stood on their feet, and those who saw them were terrified. And then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." And they went up to heaven in a cloud while their enemies watched them. At that moment, there was a great earthquake, and a tenth of the city fell. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe has passed. The third is coming very soon. Okay, morning. How are you this morning? I don't know your name, sir.
I'm John.
John. Have you come before?
I have not.
You have not. Well, here's a name tag, John. You're welcome to sit up at the table here. And if you would give me your email address, I send out an email before every or after every class, and I would be delighted to send you one. So, okay, folks.
John, I'm Jim.
Jim?
Yep.
I do.
I'm late, but I'm Jim.
No. So, first of all, is there any question about anything we've talked about before, or anything that I wrote in the email, or anything at all?
Anything at all?
Anything at all?
I have many questions.
Okay, I haven't started this with a prayer, and I would like to do that right now. Lord, it's Martin Luther King celebration time. He was an inspiration to us all. And times at that time, times were very hard for the Black community, and they despaired. But yet they sang like we sang this morning, "We shall overcome." And deep in our hearts, we believe that we shall too. These are times, in some ways, like those that Martin Luther King and the Black community experienced. Troops are mustering and organizing, perhaps to go to Minnesota. There are troops moving to Greenland. Deep in our hearts, we do believe that someday, it can't come too soon. We thank you for this congregation and for the choir and for Melissa Ann's sermon this morning. We thank you for the support that we get in these hard times. Bless us as we study a little more of the times as presented by John of Patmos. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ, who is Lord. Amen. Okay. This is the interim. It's the same pattern. There are 7 trumpets. There were 4 trumpets, which go very quickly, and then 2, which we read about last week. And then there's regularly an interlude, and then we're going to find in chapter a little after chapter 11, we're going to hear the 7th trumpet, and then hear the Hallelujah chorus. This is powerful stuff here. So let me go through this here. There's an angel coming from heaven, another angel, there's another mighty angel, and he had a little scroll in his hand. Now, you will recall that the first group was scroll with 7 seals. Now, is this the same scroll as that one? Well, this is one of those cases where all the people who really know things are divided. That is to say, we really don't know. Uh, it's likely that it is not. One is this is a little scroll. And so rather than the scroll, a scroll, this is the little scroll, and it doesn't have seals on it. And it is it uses a different word for the Greek word for scroll, a diminutive for scroll. So probably not, but it's hard to it's hard to say. He said this angel was very large and he had 1 foot on the land and one on the sea, and that is a position of power. That is controls. Understand we're um, in the conflict on this earth right now. And this is you get the land and the sea, and that's it. You got the powers that are on land, the powers that say, and so this is a very powerful angel. Um, and he gave a great shout like a roaring lion. You will recall that God is very loud, or his angels tend to be very loud, make a lot of noise. And he sounded like a roaring lion. We've come across a lion before, and that's a divine creature um, uh, um, from the Old Testament, really, from the line of Judah. We've read about, and Jesus, or the Messiah, is portrayed as the Lion of Judah. So this 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 angel is very powerful one, redolent of the Old Testament history, and he and when he talks, 7 thunders sounded. Now, God speaks in thunder regularly. 7 thunders are a lot of thunder. Matter of fact, that's the completion of the thunders. It's 7 of them. And what we know is that thunders almost always accompany God's judgment. So this is something that's really significant here. And when the 7 thunders sounded, I was told I was about to write, and he said, then I heard a voice from heaven, seal up what the 7 thunders have said and do not write it down. Okay, what's that all about?
It's a secret.
Pardon me?
It's a secret.
It's a secret. Well, and that's exactly what it's. We're not quite sure. Let me read from Daniel 12, and also, Daniel 12. This is Daniel 12 is the last chapter of Daniel, and that's the great change. That's the great conflict in Daniel. It's the crescendo there. But you, Daniel, keep the word secret and the book sealed until the time of the end. Many shall be running back and forth, and evil shall increase. It's so what the whole book of Daniel, the whole testimony of Daniel is supposed to be sealed in this, but not the testimony in Revelation. This is supposed to be proclaimed to all the world. That's the whole story of it from the very beginning, when John is called and the 7 angels present the churches to him, and then he sees the visions of heaven and the Lamb and all this kind of stuff. This is supposed to be public, but not here. Why? We don't know for sure. One of them is possibly because the time is short. We read down here later that the time is coming up very quickly. And since, actually, the Hallelujah chorus is just in the next chapter, folks. So it may be because it's not necessary. On the other hand, it could be uh, because it's some kind of mysterious plan of God fulfilled. Um, and we're told that things are coming very fast. There's going to be no delay, and it says in verse 6. So we don't know for sure, but we do know that this is possibly it's significant, but not critical to understanding Revelation. We don't need to know what it's about. It doesn't take anything away from it. And then the angel raised his right hand and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and is what is in it, and the earth and the sea. There will be no more delay. It's coming soon now, which it is. This oath actually raises two hands. But you will, if you go through, in Genesis, you recall the story of Melchizedek, and when the kings of Chedorlaomer came in and took some of Abram's tribe, his family, took them uh, took them captive, and so Abram brought his folks, called out his tribe, and they went and got him back. And pretty soon they were joined by Melchizedek, the priest of the Most High God. And he raised his hand and made us an oath exactly like this. So this is ancient stuff here. And these folks would have recognized it. We had a little trouble recognizing the significance of this. The significance of what all this is. What's happened is that when the angel, when we're told that when the seventh angel is going to blow, uh, the mystery of God will be fulfilled as he announced to his servants and prophets. Okay. The mystery of God when the seventh is blown, that's that the kingdom of this of the Lord will become the kingdom of his Christ. That's the great mystery of God, and we can bank on it. We can bank on it. Then we're told this strange story where John is directed to eat the scroll. This is down here in verses 8 and 9 and 10. He's told to eat the scroll. It's going to be sweet in your mouth, but it's going to turn your stomach bitter. Okay, where does that come from? First of all, it comes from Ezekiel. Ezekiel 3, verse 1. And he said, this is God, said to me, O mortal, and O mortal incidentally is the technical term is O son of man. O mortal, eat what is offered to you. Eat this scroll and go speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth and he gave me the scroll to eat. He said to me, mortal, eat this scroll that I give you and fill your stomach with it. And then I ate it in my mouth as it was as sweet as honey. What's this mean? First of all, it talks to tradition. They would have recognized this. This is a major prophetic act here. Second, the effect of eating the scroll is to incorporate it in yourself. It becomes part of the body of John. And Ezekiel's scroll was only sweet, not bitter. And that is fully in accord with what the bitter times that are coming. Um, so that, once again, this is highly symbolic. This guy, he took the scroll and ate it, and then they said to me, in verse 11, you must prophesy again about many peoples and nations and languages and kings. Now, that's important to us. You will recall in chapter 6, I think it was, that we had uh, uh, in the interlude, we had the 12 tribes, the recitation of the 12 tribes. So what's going on here is that the audience for John is the tribes of Israel and the rest of the world, the tribes and the nations and the languages and all that. That was the rest of the world. So that was a transition that the Jewish kingdom, Judaism never made. That is, we have a uh, uh, movement from the people of Israel as God's elect to the Gentiles, basically. And that is the thing that Paul did that was different. He insisted on preaching this stuff to the Gentiles. And when he preached it to the Gentiles, that caused all kinds of hate, discontent, and discussions about what you can eat and whether or not you had to be circumcised and all that kind of stuff. And what Paul did and what this does is opens this gospel to the whole world, not just to the people of Israel. So we have here that this message is designed, once again, for the rest of the world. This is significant here now because we're not really talking about that class of people who are already Jews. And I believe in John's writing here that Jews are properly Messianic Jews. You recall that this is not just all Jews. He counts Jews as those who believe Jesus is the Messiah, and the others are false Jews. We saw that in chapters 1 and 2. And 3, actually. So, and start in chapters 2 and 3. So, and then what happened is that we see in chapter 11 that he was given a measuring rod. Then I was given a measuring rod. It's a rod. This is a reed, actually. The word is a reed. And he's told to measure the temple of God and the altar and those who worship there. Now, what's this all about? When the people of Israel were sent into exile in 586 BC, they longed to come back. That's what they wanted. Next year, Jerusalem, that song is even now part of the Jewish experience. Next year, Jerusalem. And so what Ezekiel realized that you couldn't go back to the same thing because the temple had been destroyed. That's the destruction of the first temple. Jerusalem had been destroyed. So Ezekiel in chapters 40 through 42 describe the new temple, and he measures it. It's measured out. It's quite large, and it's got all the doors, and he's got all the appurtenances and stuff like that. And so if you're going to give somebody a taste of hope, what you do is give them what they know, the dessert that they love. And so these folks, when they go back, they're not going to go back to destruction. They're going to go back to a brand new temple, a temple better than the older one. And it's gonna, and actually, it's enormous. It's basically gonna be a new type of existence in this new temple. So we're measuring this temple, but see here that the only measures the altar and the people therein. The temple had two parts on it. It had an outer court with all around the edges of it had porticos around, probably offices and places where you could have different functions going on. That was called the court of the Gentiles. Gentiles could come in there. And then there were inner courts, an inner court, which Gentiles could not enter. And then even beyond that, there was the temple itself. But inside this temple of for the inside this court of women and the court of the Jews, this is where only the Jews could go in. So what he's been asked to do here is to measure the temple god and the altar. That's the inner part of it, where the altar is, the great altar. It's not the inside of the temple. That's where the Holy of Holies is. But this is where people gather to worship and observe the offerings that are made there. And so he's supposed to measure those and the people therein. That's the Jews.
Measure them.
Yeah, measure, yep, and count the people. See, so we're talking about people, but they're not part. That's the reserve. Those are the folks who already have this. And said, do not measure the court outside the people. That's in verse 2. Leave it out, for it is given over to the nations. Okay. Now, we're back to the nations again, and that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the nation, and the nations don't really behave very well. They will trample down the court for 42 months. Why 42 months? 42 months is a year and a half. It's 2.5 years, excuse me, 3.5 years. 42 months is 3.5 years. That's half of the 7, the Jubilee period. We're going to get this 2.5, 3.5 figure in a variety of ways. We got it in Daniel, and it's going to come up later in terms of days instead of months.
1,260.
Yeah. So what we have here is this is a temporary event by it's not the fullness. It's not the full time. It's a temporary time. And so and then they're going to call 2 witnesses with authority to prophesy for 1,260 days wearing sackcloth. Now, if you read Left Behind, there's a whole big part of one of their novels about these 2 witnesses and how they, and in fact, those dispensationalists believe that this is part of the process of rebuilding the temple, which is going to happen literally. So it's a big thing in Left Behind series. Yes, Jim.
Do we know who the 2 witnesses are?
We don't know, but we can make some guesses.
Can we tell what group they're from? Are they from inside the temple area or out with the nation?
I think they're probably outside. Not sure. I think outside because they're testifying to the rest of the world because they are murdered by the clouds, by the 1,000 and they are struck down by the crowds, by the nations. These 2 olive trees represent 2 lampstands before the Lord. Before out in the temple, there are lampstands out there. And these represent part of the temple itself, and they are witnesses. Who are they? First of all, they can defend themselves. They are basically not defeatable. We'll see, show why in a minute here. They have, they can pour forth fire from their mouth. This is down here in verses 5 and 6. And they can call down and shut down the sky so that no rain may fall during the days of their prophesying. They have authority over the waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague. And so who are they? Once again, if you look at the various different interpretations, we don't know.
And then they get killed
Yeah.
by the beast and,
Let me get to that, okay?
but yes.
Let me get to that. They are probably the two people in the Bible, in the Old Testament, that have this kind of authority are Moses and Elijah. Moses could cause plagues to fall, etc. Elijah, he shut down the rain so that there was a great drought and a famine, and he called down fire from heaven when he was in competition with the 400 prophets of Baal. So we think this most likely represents, I believe, I'm of those who think that it's probably Moses and Elijah, but some people want to say it's Peter and Paul, and some people want to say it's this person and that. It's probably not important to interpreting this, because what we have here is just a process. I mean, what does John want us to know? What does he want us to come away with? And he wants us to come away with, I believe, that we have here a final assault by the nations in against the forces of God. And those people who are authorized to speak for God. And in fact, we'll see here that they are going to be they're going to be killed. And when they have finished their testimony, now, first of all, understand, and this is critical. The notion of prophecy, what is it in John or in Revelation? You'll recall from the very beginning, the issue is the testimony, is that Jesus gave his testimony to the end, and that we are called to testify. We conquer by testifying. So this testimony, martyria, martyr, is the critical message that Revelation gives his readers. And this is what it says in chapter 19, verse 10 of Revelation. And this is right there towards the end. And then I fell down at his feet to worship him. This is this angel, right? But he said to me, "You must not do that. I am a fellow servant with you and your comrades who hold the testimony of Jesus." See, that's what we were called to do. And he says, "Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy." So this testimony that we have is what prophets are doing as well. And that's the essence of what it means to be a prophet, is to proclaim Jesus. And that's the New Testament model. Understand, that moves us away from the Old Testament. There's a lot of, the prophets do a lot of judgment stuff like that, but the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy here. So these two folks are prophets, but they are also comrades. They are testifying to Jesus. That's what they've done there. And in verse 7, when they had finished their testimony, the beast comes up from the abyss, from the bottomless pit, and will make war on them and conquer them and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city that is prophetically called Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom and Egypt, where the Lord also was crucified. Okay, so first of all, this is the beast. This is the first mention of the beast. We're going to see the beast. Sometimes we see the term dragon. They are probably synonymous, beast and dragon, from here to the rest of the of Revelation. This beast is Satan. Is the personification, is the embodiment, I guess, of the forces of evil that fight God. So the beast is brought out of the pit at this time, and this fighting this beast in the pit is very significant as we'll get on. And we're going to see the beast. Let me see. It appears how many times. It appears a significant number of times after this, and is a major player in the last part in this conflict of the seven bowls that's going to follow here. And so, they go into the great city. The beast kills the two witnesses, and they are they're thrown on the ground in the great city. What is this great city? Now, from here on, the great city is ordinarily Babylon, which is Rome. So that's how it's ordinarily portrayed here. This, however, is not Babylon, because this is the city where also their Lord was crucified in verse 8.
Mhm.
This great city is Jerusalem. And so this slaughter is in the court of the Gentiles in Jerusalem, where the Gentiles are not behaving well. And they're there for 3.5 days. 3.5 days. Members of the peoples and tribes and languages. We got this members of the peoples and tribes and languages again. For 3.5 days, the Gentiles rejoice over that. This is great stuff. But not all. Not all. They refused to let them be placed in a tomb, which means that there are some out there who want to recognize us, who want to do the proper thing to these two witnesses. So not everybody is involved in this great revolt against God. And the inhabitants of the earth will gloat and celebrate and exchange in presents, because these two prophets had been a torment to the inhabitants of the earth. You speak the word peace, speak the word love, and turn the other cheek, and that's a torment. Then and now sometimes. So,
Do you think they knew that all this torment was actually from God? And were they actually turning against God, or were they just glad that this torment that these two prophets brought were over, not knowing, they know not what they do, kind of?
where are we? Well, we are not yet at the point where the armies of God are overrunning the cosmos. We're going to see that in the part of the bowls. What we are is still in the culture of the world. And so they may not see this as God, but they see it as Rome versus these other folks over there. And they are the ones who are tormented by this message of Jesus, and it doesn't fit. You got to know that a lot of people will be very offended by Melissa Ann's sermon this morning. Very offended by it. And so
Parts of it, yeah,
significant parts of it.
Mhm.
No, I don't think they relate this to God. They relate it to the opposition to the culture of the times. And that's what Revelation's all about. That's what John wants us to know. There's this culture out there, you join it, you bought it, you lose it all. See? And that's what Revelation is called us to do and to be. Yes.
He not wanting to have these folks buried, and then buried, or two people, or two.
Yeah, the two witnesses.
Yeah. When you bury someone, you show respect,
Yes,
you put them away.
yes,
But so these folks wanted them to stay out so they could party over their
Yes.
bodies.
yes.
So where are the good people in this? Are they also?
The ones who
No,
wanted.
they're
to
the
bury
ones
them.
who wanted to bury him. See, they were, the rest of the people were prevented from allowing him to be properly buried.
So we can treat them now again, half of
We
seven.
keep coming up to this 3.5. It's a period of time that is not complete. Okay, temporary.
It seems so familiar in a way to current times with so many nations and tongues in the Middle East and 3.5 days and slaughter and, just it's scary.
Yeah. It's, yes. Okay. Verse 11. After 3.5 days, once again, this temporary period, the breath of life from God entered them, and they stood on their feet, and those who saw were terrified.
Sure, zombies or whatever.
Pardon me?
Like zombies or, it's like, wow.
Yeah,
What the heck?
absolutely. It scared
they're
the
back.
shit out of them. And this is the ordinary response when you're confronted with unlimited power.
And stuff you don't understand.
Yeah, so you're there in the presence of this power, and the best thing to do is cower down, to stay out of the way. Don't get in the way of it, and particularly if it's the power of God, because the power of God and the power of doesn't allow the God is such that it doesn't allow evil to exist in the same spot. So it's terrifying. It's important to remember that.
They say that word too a lot.
It's terrifying. Yeah, we'll see it again here. And they heard a loud voice. First of all, they've been given the breath of God. Now, this is different from the resurrection. This is a resuscitation, in that God has breathed into them. If you read the story of Eve and Adam, they are created from the dust and earth, and God breathed the breath of life into them. And in fact, in general, the definition of death in the Bible is the breath stops.
Is he breathing the breath into those two witnesses?
Yes,
Okay, just those two people. Okay.
and to the witnesses, yes.
Two witnesses.
And this resuscitates them. And like Elijah, and Moses. Moses were, the tradition, Elijah was specifically taken up, and Moses was not taken up in the same way, but went away. And so the tradition was that both Elijah and Moses were taken up into heaven. To bury somebody in the ancient world was common decency.
Even your enemies.
Even your enemies would ordinarily do that. And so a loud voice come up here, and they went up into heaven while their enemies watched them. At that moment, there was a great earthquake. and a tenth of the city fell, 7,000 people were killed. Um, this is one more thing that, suggests that it shows that this is Jerusalem and not, Babylon, because the population of Jerusalem at this time was probably about 70,000. That's a fairly common estimate. So if a tenth died, then seven, that would be 10%. Which incidentally, we use the term decimate.
Oh, yeah.
That when you lose a tenth, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a
Decimate.
whole lot, casualty rate. So, there was a whole, the town was decimated, because of this earthquake. God speaks in earthquakes. God is, and winds, and natural forces, and he does it loudly. And so, and 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. Now, we don't like the term fear. I mean, the word is fear, made afraid, terrified. We don't like the use of the word fear. Um, in this particular case, most people were afraid and terrified, and they perished. Many of them perished. But fear is also a motivation to worship God, to recognize the power and the majesty of God, to recognize and the righteousness of God, the goodness of God. So when you recognize the power, the authority, the righteousness and the goodness of God, terror is something that can drive you to worship God, not to turn away. Yes, Jim?
When it says, and the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven, do we think they're giving glory to God for sparing those that remain, or like you say, or both? Just like, wow, that's an awesome God.
Well, it may be, we don't know. You're asking what we can't discern from the text. For instance, many people, many Christians, their experience of God is extremely personal, extremely struck down by grace, by forgiveness. And that becomes a solid and powerful motivation. It's the classic conversion experience. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, and now I'm found. See, that kind of powerful experience existed then as now. But not everybody has not every Christian has that experience, because some folks are just awed by the splendor of God and for what we know about God. And that turns into faith as well.
A variety of revelations, so to speak.
Whatever.
It looks almost like the belief of God or the glory of God goes over the fear of whatever there is.
Absolutely.
Happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the angels said, "Fear not." The angel before Mary said, "Fear not." And the angels in the sky for the birth said, "Fear not." And so this notion of fear is the appropriate response in the face of a manifestation of God. If you got an earthquake that happens right now, you got to know we're going to be scared. And if that earthquake is caused by God, that is nothing more than the appropriate response to the power of God at work. So that's the dynamic that we don't well understand. But this notion about fear and how we respond to God.
I was thinking about how it had only been the Jews who had a God that was not visible, how
Yeah,
everybody else, and then, of course, eventually the Muslims and the Christians all,
Yeah.
we think have the same God, but to contend with an invisible power,
yep,
you need some of these
Demonstration.
demonstrations.
absolutely.
And to convince others, then you have to talk about what those things mean, and you have to somehow connect it to the invisible God.
Absolutely. And that's the difficulty that the Jews had and the Christians had as well, except that the Christians had this person.
Then we got.
God was incarnate and this human being, and so you could see him and hear him and touch him. But the Jews didn't have that. They had nothing except this space between the wings of the Ark of the Covenant. There's a void there, and that made things very hard. It became much more philosophical, I think, than the Christian tradition.
And if it's just a man saying these things in a human history of people saying whatever they want to get or maintain power, it's hard to swallow it whole without seeing these.
Yeah, lots of people can say lots of things. Interestingly enough, what makes the difference here is the resuscitation of the two witnesses, which is what makes Christianity.
They go,
That
wow,
that was the event that changed the world when Jesus was resurrected. It amazes people when Lazarus was resuscitated, but it changed the world when Jesus was resurrected because he was resurrected as alive, as continuing to be alive.
And that was probably 3.5 days too.
Well, that's like these two witnesses, whereas other people are caught up into heaven like
Yeah.
Elijah.
Yeah.
Didn't die at all.
Well, yeah, they did not, we don't know that they died, but that's a different status.
Plus-
They're not present on this earth. Jesus is alive. Jesus is Lord, he lives.
And these two witnesses were laying in the street, probably decomposing
Yes,
and everyone was celebrating. Everyone could see him and know, and then suddenly poof, they're right in front of them.
well, they're standing up.
Right, and then
But Lazarus life too, right?
Lazarus was resurrected too. He was not taken up. See,
Right, yeah.
after death, he was
Yeah.
not taken up. But Moses and Elijah, and who's the third one? There's okay.
Is
Uh,
it Melchizedek?
Pardon me?
Is it Melchizedek?
No, no, it's before that. I can't think of the one in early in Genesis 6, I guess. Enoch. Enoch is also taken up. They don't have
question.
any presence on earth.
I got a question.
Yes.
I don't understand how the resuscitation of these two witnesses are different than Christ being resurrected. They sound very similar, like they
Yes,
were
it is very
resurrected
similar.
as well.
The term, first of all, the terms are different. The term resurrection, resurrection is one thing. It means that you're alive again. You are the same as you were before, except in a different form. The term resuscitation means that you are. It's like you've
Restored to
been
your-
resuscitated on a table in the operating room. That
But
means
you're alive again after 3 days in
you didn't
in the
really
same form
die.
as you were before, right? But Jesus was in resurrected into a different form.
Well, he is alive. That's the difference. And that's what made Christianity Christianity. Resurrecting people was not unheard of in the ancient world because It's not unheard of in this world because we can,
In a coma and then back they come.
yeah,
or-
but certainly in the ancient world, somebody may have gone into some kind of coma or something like that and then awakened.
Uh-huh.
See, that would have been not
Resuscitate.
unheard of.
Oh,
Is one of the differences that Jesus was behind the stone and I believe nobody saw him wake up and get up and walk out.
That's correct.
Whereas these two people or witnesses had been laying in the street in front of everybody celebrating their demise, and then in front of them all, they got up like, wow.
Yeah, that's a
Mm.
distinction that is that I'm not sure that makes the difference, but it is certainly a distinction here.
yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. It's confusing to me how they're different. I mean, it seems like
well,
it could be the same.
I think seeing somebody with CPR or coming out of a coma is more like what happened to these two witnesses. And
Okay.
Jesus's
Was
life,
dead.
he was dead.
He was dead, but
and-
these at 3.5 days they weren't dead. They were still must have still been breathing if they were in a coma.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Well, I guess it's a minor, maybe it's a minute
Well, it's
question,
not
but
mine, there is a distinction in the description in the vocabulary.
okay.
I'll talk about it a little bit more in my email.
All right.
Between the resurrection of Jesus and the resuscitation
Yeah,
of
that'd be
these two
good.
witnesses and Enoch and all these folks.
Maybe come up hither, the voice from above, and in front of their enemies, they ascended to heaven in a cloud. I'm not sure that's how Jesus went, or.
Well,
I'm-
he
Yes,
remained
that's-
around for 40 days. He came back and started going talking to people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then we get this, verse 14, the second woe has passed. The third woe is coming very soon. You recall the three woes. This is the second one. We don't know exactly what that third woe is. It may be the whole conflict with the supernatural powers, with the beasts, and that's the next phase of this. And understand now, once again, it's important to go back to the notion that this is not sequential. Say, this does not happen one after another. We're going to get to chapter, the next portion, which is in verse 11, 15, and then it's going to says, then I saw, which is a change of scene. Those words are a change of scene, kai idon, and we see it a lot in John. Then I saw, which is a change of scene, but it also is, I think, should be understood as meanwhile. Say, meanwhile, all this stuff has been happening. While this has been going on,
24
this is
elders.
also going on. So, okay, folks, any other questions before we go? Have we got it all straightened out?
When do you find time to sleep and eat? This is so much research, and the emails are so
Well,
good.
thank you. It takes,
It's
this is taking more effort than
big stuff.
any class that I've had before, but that's partly because I haven't just been reading it over the years.
Yeah.
I had been reading Revelation like I've been reading Romans, it wouldn't be so hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Familiar with.
Yeah.
And I have not
No.
been reading it at all.
Me
So,
either, so
I mean,
just
right.
everything you say is so
It's a
helpful.
piece of-
Thank you.
Holy cow,
So,
it's coming.
Or is it, have we had the third woe?
not yet, not yet.
But it's coming in Revelation.
It's coming in Revelation, but it's not so clearly identified as the first and the second woes. So, we had earlier, this is the first woe, and now the first woe was after the six angels.
Maybe it's the
And
first
this
one
is the
was
second
described.
woe, and the third one was coming, and we don't reach a statement in Revelation that says this is the third woe.
Is the third woe completed in Revelation?
I think so. I think that's what's gonna start happening. Yeah, you could identify that in chapter 20. So from what's gonna happen now until chapter 20, we're gonna see the culmination of it all. And this is what we're gonna get, you know, the war with Satan. There's gonna be the
For a thousand.
the 1,000-year reign, and there's gonna be this final Armageddon battle, and there's gonna be this final pitching of all of Satan and his cohorts into the lake of fire, and there's gonna be a final judgment. And that ends chapter 20. Chapters 21 and 22 are the culmination, the great hope of it all, with the New Jerusalem descending from heaven. And there you get, and that's the final part, that's the meanwhile, you know, once this all happens, it's all done by then, it's all done. And so the kingdom of this world has become the kingdom of his Christ.
1,000
And he will
years
reign.
is a long time.
Well, yes, it's intended to be a long time. But is it, you know, what, see, this is the kind of thing, the notion of a 1,000-year reign is
Before the big
so,
rise again.
people take it so literally that that's the expectation of millennialists, of dispensationalists. 1,000-year.
What it mean to be.
Hitler talked about a 1,000-year reign.
No.
Yes, he did. 1,000-year Reich.
So
Oh,
people
the
have
Third
always
Reich.
seen their own times.
Yes.
reflected.
Yes.
Is that where the Third Reich, like the Third Reign, or is that?
The
what
Third
that-
Reich is the third, the term Reich is kingdom, basically, rule. The Third Reich is the Nazi Reich, and
So what were the first and the second?
that was that the first and the second Reichs.
I don't know.
That's the empires, the German empires, and then the Weimar Republic.
Oh, sure.
I think that the 1,000-year thing though, didn't Jesus say something like, to God, that 1,000 years is like a day and a day? like-
Jesus don't say that, but that's in scripture, yes. 1,000 years is a day, and that's the standard way of getting around all these times. 1,000
Yeah.
years is a day, you know, as a, particularly when you're talking about things like creation.
Well, maybe,
Creation's very clearly done in 6 days.
well, I was gonna say, but for him is maybe 6 days, not necessarily 24 hours each day, but. you know,
That's correct, except that
A millennium.
the word is day.
Can't argue with that. Day means the
I
same.
mean, the word is day,
Right.
so,
All right, sure.
okay, folks, thank you all very much.